Hey everybody, it's me Minu back with another video, a possibly minimally edited video because I screwed up. Stay over there. Got fur everywhere. I literally said to stay over there. Stay over there. Anyway, possibly minimally edited because I was playing around. I wanted to play Sims 3. I ain't played Sims 3 in forever. And because most of the packs that I owned were like on DVD or something, EA did not recognize that I owned all the packs. So my friend was like, oh, you should torrent the packs. And I tried. I never torrent because I'm scared of viruses. But she was like, it's a safe site, da 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 da. Trojan. Trojan came through on the torrent that I downloaded, fucked up my film editor, just started taking stuff. And then so I tried to download the film editor again, but it wasn't there. So my friend was like, "Oh, I found it on the torrent. Here's the torrent." Torrent had a hack tool in it. So literally just nothing. So I'm gonna try to find like some open source video editor to edit this on. So it's gonna be minimally edited because it's gonna be a completely new software or whatever that I'll be using to edit the video. And yeah, I'm annoyed with myself because I was like a 2-year streak with this video editor. I learned everything. I become very comfortable with using it. And now I have to start all over again because I wanted a Sims 3 pack. And it's annoying. And I was not going to buy it. I was not going to pay for those packs again because I'd already paid for the packs. I just had the physical copies that were DVDs. And I mean, they're in my mom's house, but I had the physical copies that were DVDs. And I didn't buy it through like the EA digital store or whatever. So, and I know you're probably thinking, Meanie, why do you have a bonnet on? No real reason. I have a scarf on underneath it. Meanie, why do you have a scarf on? No real reason. I have my regular hair on underneath it. I'm going to take it down is why I have that on. Because I was actually supposed to take these down like a week ago. Because they were only supposed to be up for the time of like a few days to a week, and then I was going to do a twist out, and then I got lazy. I didn't feel like doing it, so I didn't. But I'm going to talk about mental health stuff. I'm going to talk about the process that I went through to go no contact. I'm going to talk about some of the upsides of that, and I'm going to talk about some of the downsides of that. And just because I've been reflecting on it, especially when it comes to how going no contact with your family impacts the children and the different cycles that my dysfunctional family has gone through. So I'm going to go through all of that. So if Sadie would just calm down, I just need her to calm down for a second and I can do this video. All right, so I'm just conditioning my hair. So as I've said in many other videos, my family is extremely dysfunctional and toxic. And I also happen to have a very large family. I think my great grandmother either had 13 kids, so she was one of 13 kids, but she had a bunch of kids. My grandma had a bunch of kids, and then all those kids had a 2.5 kids. And that's like the average. You either had 2 kids or you had 3 kids. There was no one kid situation in my family. But and a lot of them like did not go to college, some of them didn't graduate high school. A lot of them usually got pregnant around by the time they were 20 or 22. It's just like, it's cycles, right? It's generational cycles. There's a lot of attachment issues in my family. So a lot of issues with codependence. And I mean, too, with the poverty, codependence kind of works for you, but it's still toxic. It's still not good for you. A lot of issues with codependency, a lot of issues with addiction, a lot of issues with sexual abuse, trauma, all of the things. If you can think about what would make a family toxic and dysfunctional, my family has it, and then some more things that you haven't thought of. She is back. Say hey. Just because I won't let you go sneak food doesn't mean you get to mess up my video now. Come on now. Come on now. But anyway, so I always had a very tumultuous relationship with my mother, my father, some of my siblings, and some of my cousins. So I've always had a very difficult relationship with them. And one of the things I would say, because I know that there are people who struggle to get away from their toxic family. My family, certain people in my family did have a history of leaving, quote unquote, leaving the family, like moving to another city, moving to another state, and kind of living their own lives. But the difference between them and me was that they would come back. Like, they would always come back. They would come back. They'd be like, I'm in the city. What's up? Let's get together. Da 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 da. So it was like they recognized that distance was a good thing, but then they would come back. And sometimes, to be honest, some of the people who would come back, I would be like, you left and you didn't do no better for yourself? Like, you got away from the family, but you did not improve? I mean, I guess you got a better job that made more money, but you still got drug addiction. Like, you're still in trouble with the law. Like, I don't understand, like, what was the point of leaving if you were just going to continue the same behaviors? But that's neither here nor there. So I started distancing myself really around college, which was like 2014, 2015, when I actually was able to move away from my family and be in like a separate area. It was still the same city, but it was like the other side of the city, just far enough for my family to think that it was inconvenient to ever come see me. Not for me to come see them. No, I could drive the half an hour to go see them all the time, but it was too inconvenient for them to ever come see me, which was a positive thing. So I started becoming distant with that, but I really became like distant when I graduated college, and I decided that I would not be moving home into my mother's house. I decided that I was done with all of the, because they couldn't let me have nothing. She couldn't let me have nothing. She had to make it about her. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm sick of this toxic cycle that we're in. I'm walking away. So I went through this period, and I started with my mother where I would go low contact, basically. So I started with low contact, and that basically meant that I wasn't coming around as much. I wasn't answering my phone as much. When my mom called, I didn't always answer. And that was a huge thing, right? Because like, oh, your mom calls, you have to answer. Like, what if it's something serious? It was never nothing serious. It was literally just wanting to have access to you all the time. So I started out doing that, where I just would distance myself for a while, and I come back. Then I distance myself again for a little bit longer this time, and then I'll come back. And I did that over and over again. I think at one point, like, I didn't talk to my mom for like 3 months. And then I met up and had brunch with her. And then I was reminded of why I didn't talk to her for 3 months. But I definitely recommend, if you can, if it's not so serious, like if your life is in danger, don't do it this way. Just, go cold turkey, find support. But the reason I recommend doing it this way is because in those moments of low contact or temporary no contact, it really helped me see what my life could actually be like without my mother. And show you know the shirt. But it helped me see what my life could be like, because there was a constant anxiety. There was this constant narrative in my family that you could never like not talk to your mother because you're always going to need your mother. And society will tell you that too. You're always going to need your mother, your father, whoever, right? And they decide how, depending on who they like more, they decide which one is going to be. In my case, it happened to be, they was like, oh, your dad, fuck him. But your mom, no, you need to do everything she says all the time and keep contact with her all the time. But I really got to see what my life could be like without my mother in it. And it was better. It was better. There was less stress. There was less anxiety. Like, you guys know, I have chronic pain conditions that, one is caused by trauma. The other led to more trauma. And even those were better because I was not constantly stressed, constantly triggered by being around this person who could never let me live down anything, could always had to remind me of my traumas as well. She was very obsessed with that. And so it was always a reminder of, all of the horrible things that had happened to me, whether through her or through somebody else. And it was extremely stressful. And it was during those periods as I was trying to get my health in order and I was seeing doctor after doctor, going into tons of medical debt. Even my doctors began to realize that there was a pattern. It'd be like I would start to make progress, and then I would break the no contact, or I would break the low contact, and I would go talk to my mother again, and they would notice that everything would just backslide immediately. And so I had gastroenterologist and proctologist and like all of these other doctors being like, every time you even have a phone call with this woman at this point, you're coming back to me because you need more pain medication because everything's flaring up again. Like, it was like a no-brainer for these doctors. And I was like, I mean, yeah, I hear you, but also, and it's like my brain, I couldn't think of, a possibility of fully going no contact. I could only think of it like, I won't talk to you for a few months, then I come back around, and then the rest of the family didn't help. Again, I had a huge family. So there was constant pressure from them, even when I would be around them, of like, well, your mom called me, or I told your mom that you were coming over here so she can come over here and talk to you, because everybody felt the need for some reason to be a part of the drama. Because again, heavily enmeshed family, everybody's in your business all the time. And it didn't make it any better because they would force me to re-engage in contact with her. And so I was constantly stressed. And even people who I thought were like safe people to talk to, they also still had heavy biases. Even people who had terrible relationships with their parents, like, if you have a terrible relationship with your parent and you talk to someone who has lost their parent, even if that parent was super abusive, just the grief that person feels from having lost their parent will cause them to act crazy with you, because in their mind you still have a parent, so you need to make it better. Like, it's the child's responsibility to make it better because of the fact that they missed their parents. And again, that's a whole projection thing, and it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's everything to do with them, but they make it seem like it's about you. So I got a lot of pressure and a lot of disrespect from people who felt like it was my responsibility to make my alcoholic father not alcoholic. I don't know how I was going to do that, or support him through his alcoholism, because, he's got a problem, but he don't want to fix the problem. So somehow I needed to do something. You know what I mean? Or like, or even people who would acknowledge that my mom, something was wrong with her. Somehow it still came back to me that I had to help her. And so people like that are extremely toxic, and they don't care about your healing. They care about what would make them feel better about the situation. Because my mother wasn't going to change. She was not going to change. That was never even in the equation for her to change. It was more so I had to change to be able to better deal with her and her nonsense, which is disrespectful. So I went through that over and over again. And I was literally checking my phone. 2021, I decided to see my third physical therapist. Thousands of dollars later, my third physical therapist, to get help with my chronic pain conditions. Again, because I was not getting anywhere with the previous two. So I found a third one that my therapist had recommended, which was good. And it was in the mid-year of 2021 when I went to see this physical therapist. She was a trauma-informed pelvic floor therapist. And she was the one who, literally in our first session, I cried because she was able to pinpoint the different areas of trauma just from my pelvic floor, just from having helped a bunch of women with trauma before. She was able to see things that I know my therapist hadn't talked to her, and I hadn't talked to her before. And immediately she was picking up issues with my mother, with my my mother, my sister, my aunts, like all of this stuff. And it was just really, really hard. And so we had the conversation immediately. First session, I just met this woman, and the conversation again comes up of like, maybe you should stop talking to your mother. So at this point, all of my doctors have told me, stop talking to your mother. It's not healthy for you. It's causing you a lot of pain. It's causing your chronic pain flare-ups. It's obviously a lot of trauma there. Stop doing it. And I wasn't really hearing much of it, or I was hearing it and I was like, damn, everybody sees this. But for the trauma informed physical therapist to directly connect the pain and the issues that I was having to the trauma that was being caused by specific people, and to make the argument of like, if you do not get away from these people, you can't heal. You cannot heal this chronic pain that you have. You can't. It's not going to be possible, because they're always going to put you in survival mode. And if you're in survival mode, you can never relax and tell your body that it's safe, meaning you are going to be in pain all the time. Your muscles are always going to be tense. And that was, I felt like, the reality check that I needed in that moment. The reality check that I felt that I needed in that moment to finally just like block my mom. And it was a question of like, how do you do this, right? Like, do you send a goodbye message, like, and be like, all my life, da 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 da. And no, that's not the type of, I can't speak for everybody's parents, but damn it. But the type of mother that I have, you cannot have a conversation about the way she makes you feel or the things that she does and how they affect you. You can't do that, because it opens up the room for her to deny all of your feelings and gaslight you and say you don't really feel like that, or someone else is making you feel like that. So it's not something to have a conversation with and send some kind of goodbye message, right? So I didn't do any of that. I just turned it off. And that was back in 2021, right? And over the course of the next 6-7 months, I slowly had to cut off everyone else in my family as well. Because naturally, anyone who I had any contact with, my mother would use them as a way to get to me. She would go to them, she would talk to them. Do you know how much Minu has hurt me with her actions, and she won't talk to me? I need you to talk to her. And so she would do that. She would go to these family members and say, you need to talk to Minu and tell her to talk to me. And they would be like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. And so anytime I would go to try to hang out with them or spend time with them, it would be like, Minu, you need to talk to your mother. I'm calling your mother over here right now. I'm telling her you're here so she can come, so you guys can squash this, because you need to fix it, Minu. You need to fix this problem. Never the abuser, always the abusee. And so it became apparent, because of how my mother is, that sides had to be chosen. And that was the thing that I thought was always so frustrating. Like, when you try to pull away from someone who is emotionally manipulative and controlling, that they will weaponize everything they have in their arsenal, meaning every connection you have. Like, I've had situations where my mom's tried to call my therapist. Like, she's demanded my therapist information. I've had times when she's tried to call my friends to get them to tell me what she wants to tell me, or to get them to convince me of what she wants out of me. Like, I've had her try to call like my mentors from college. Like, she would want to involve everybody she can to use them against me. And she wouldn't even lie about it either. She'd literally be like, let me talk to so-and-so, so then she'll understand what I'm talking about, and then she'll tell you that you need to do XYZ. Like, it was not even a secret. You know what I mean? It's just literally like, I feel entitled to XYZ, and everyone will agree with me and force you to do what I want you to do. And so she did that. She did that with every family member I had. And I have a huge family. So it quickly made it to where I could not go around any of them without it becoming some drama or them triggering me, because everything that she did, she would have them do the same thing. So it'd be like, tell me all the things that have been done to you. Tell me all the traumas that you've experienced, the traumas that you've experienced, so that I can then tell you that you're making it all up and you're being ridiculous. Literally. You didn't even have to say anything. Before you even said it, they'd be like, whatever you think it happened or whatever you think is bad, it ain't that bad. They would immediately deny you before any words came out of your mouth. And I got to the point where I was like, one, I don't owe you an explanation. I don't owe you a list of my traumas. And my therapist had to help me with this, because I used to get real triggered and start like word vomiting. I don't owe you an explanation. I don't owe you a list of my traumas so that you can evaluate them and check the box of, is this traumatic, yes or no, or to tell me whether or not I have a right to be upset about something that happened to me and not something that happened to you. You know what I mean? Especially coming from the fact that I came from a family where things like SA, or, being in sexual relationships with people who are way too old, for it to possibly be considered consent. You know what I mean? Like that was something that was pretty common. So even in the case of SA, like I've had family members say, even in the case of SA, and I come from a majority women family, they would say it's not that bad. Even in the case of that, they would say it's not that bad. You put yourself in that situation. You're the one who wanted to be grown. You know what I mean? Like it is just think Tyler Perry level of trash, and they love Tyler Perry movies because it's just literally watching themselves. Tyler Perry level of family drama and logic is that, and so it's like if someone's gonna tell you that even in the case of SA, it's not that bad and you don't get to be upset about it and somehow it's your fault anyway, why would you feel safe to tell them anything about what you're going through? Like you wouldn't. It just would make no sense. It's illogical. And so at that point, I had to walk away from everybody. I had to walk away from everybody. I had to block everybody. There was a thing of me being like, I was on like the family phone plan or something, and my mother refused to let me off the family phone plan, so I had to call and pretend to be her to get off the family phone plan. Same thing with car insurance, because that was another thing, right? They were like, but if you don't talk to her, then you're gonna have to pay for your own car insurance. You're gonna have to pay for your own cell phone. You're gonna have to pay for your own stuff. She's not gonna pay for things. My mom doesn't have that much money. And so I always thought it was interesting that, I mean, I guess in poverty, it seems like she has money, but she didn't have that much money, you know, and she was always complaining about how she didn't have that much money and she had to like take care of everybody and help everybody out and help her kids out and all that stuff. But when it came to like me being like, hey, I want to pay my own phone bill. Hey, I want to pay my own car insurance. I want to get my own car in my name and finance and all that stuff. She wouldn't let me. She would tell everybody else that I was the spoiled brat who wanted her to pay for all of my things but didn't want to speak to her. Like I wanted to use her for money, which is so funny because that's like she raised me to do the same thing with men, but that's a whole other thing. She would tell everybody that I was a spoiled, ungrateful child that was, you know, using her for money but didn't want to actually talk to her or didn't respect her. But in reality, I was desperately trying to become independent and she would not let me. So I had to pretend to be her to get off of her car insurance plan. And do the same thing with, you know, getting off the phone plan, doing everything I could to become independent. And even distant family members who had distanced themselves because they had recognized that the family was toxic, even they judged me because they believed the narrative that I was still trying to be financially dependent on my mother while also being no contact, which makes no sense. But of course they would believe something that stupid. And I think for me, it's like if you're willing, having known me my whole life, to believe these ridiculous negative narrative that my mother has created about me, then you're not worth keeping in my life either. So I've had to cut people off who I thought that I would have a pretty good relationship with because they really showed their ass when I started going no contact, like actual, like real life no contact. Not that I'm gonna be gone for a few months, I'm gonna come back. I'm not coming back. Peace. When I accepted the fact that I did not ever have to come back, my physical therapist felt the difference in my body immediately. Immediately. Because that is how trauma works. That is how trauma works in your body. You can be trained and gaslit your whole life to completely ignore red flags and triggers mentally, but your body is never going to forget. Your body is always going to be honest with you about what's going on. Now, you can lie and pretend that your body's just doing shit, which is fine. Well, not fine, but that's just what you can do. But your body is always going to say, like, red alert, fire, something's wrong. Your brain will protect you. It will make you forget stuff in order to protect you, but your body won't. Your body will be like, shit is wrong. Shit is bad. SOS, help. So that was back in 2021. By 2022, I was blocking my entire family on all social media. Some of them, they were trying to reach me any way they could, so I blocked their phone number, and then I started getting texts from unknown numbers and people trying to reach me, people messaging me through TikTok or commenting on things, because they were still trying, because my mom could not stop, and they didn't recognize that she was the problem. So they felt that they had to all gang up on me to get me to realize that I'm somehow the problem and that I need to fix something that someone else broke. And it got to the point where everyone was blocked on everything except my sister. My sister was unblocked. My sister was not blocked on one social media platform, and that was it. I changed my phone number so they could stop messaging me or calling me from private numbers and stuff like that. And the only reason that my sister was not blocked was because I told her, like, look, this way, you know I'm alive. So there's no reason for you to call the police or act like I done disappeared or been kidnapped or whatever bullshit my mom would try to pull. You know that I'm alive, and you know that I don't want to talk to any of them, and I don't want to hang out with any of them, and I don't want to see any of them. It's not an option. I am removing myself from this family. My sister wasn't fully down with it, but at the same time, she recognized that I was going to do what I was going to do. And that's one thing I got to say respect about my sister. She knows that I ain't a liar. I'm not a pump faker. You guys have seen from my videos where I talk about how my friendships end. I am not a, burn a bridge and then swim back across type person. I can't swim. So if I burn a bridge, it's a serious situation. And so my sister's like, okay, I'm going to respect the fact that that's what you want. Now, have there been a few times when she's like, oh, people asking about you? Yes. And I've told her, don't do that. I don't need to know if people are asking about me. I don't need to know if people thinking about me. I'm doing my own thing over here. But for the most part, she's been normal.